Oh, hello world. All right, so got gas. I got an okay breakfast sandwich. Um, yeah, I love Circle K. Car started without any problem, and it didn't seem like I was, it didn't seem like it was struggling to turn over at all. But I have noticed since I've started it back up that the battery light is coming on and then turning off and then coming on. So it's definitely cause for alarm. So I'm going to take the quickest route back home, which is not the direction I'm going. Oh man, go me! I did that. Oh. I pulled out, I could not see the freeway, and I forgot which direction I was facing, so I just went. Oh well. Oh wow. I do that sometimes. In them neighborhoods I'm not in very often, I'll lose my bearing on which way is north. Yeah, my mind did a 180 there. Palm Valley Boulevard. I'm not sure where this one goes. Memory serves, this is like a local arterial just for this area, and it just kind of loops around the neighborhood, providing access to little residential neighborhoods. I can see residential neighborhoods off to the left, single family homes. And then memory serves, it kind of loops out and then goes south and connects to McDowell. Could be wrong though. I've never drove it before, so this is fun. I love learning streets like this. Well, I think I just saw Phoenix street signs on the right. Saw Phoenix street signs on the left as well. It's weird because I could have sworn I was in Avondale, or perhaps Goodyear. I always get Avondale and Goodyear confused. As I was saying earlier, I'm not as familiar with the far southwest valley suburbs. I've not spent a lot of time in them. I've never particularly hung out in them, and I have worked them as a cab driver, but not a lot. And my times there working as a cab driver has been very limited. And it's generally, now my thing as a cab driver, and what I always told cab drivers was the best way to make money. They'd say, well, what's the best part of town to work in? And I tell them, work wherever you are. And I'd get blank stares, but that would mean literally wherever you are. So if your fare takes you to a part of town, be paying attention, try to get a fare as close to where you're dropping off as possible. Figure out where that guy's going and, rinse and repeat wherever you are. And certainly when I get into this part of town, I would try to get fares, but it just always seemed like when I would get into the far Southwest Valley, and by far Southwest Valley, I mean Tolleson, Avondale, Buckeye, Goodyear, and Litchfield Park, and Verrado as well. Can't leave out Verrado. Although they were just barely starting to build Verrado when I was a cab driver. But anyway, wow, this road goes a long ways. Dang. We have to look at this one on Google Maps to see what part of the grid is missing to facilitate it going on for such a long distance with so much winding. Pretty damn sure I'm coming on McDowell Road here. I am Palm Valley Boulevard, and it doesn't look like it goes anywhere past here. I see little reflectors ahead, which would tell me they've got it capped off for future development and extension at a later date. Anyway, yeah, generally when I'd get into the far Southwest Valley, I wouldn't run that many fares before there was just no more to be had, and I'd end up having to go back. Occasionally, I'd be able to get lucky and get something to go north, but most of the time, I just work my way back west. You know, get myself either into West Phoenix or Glendale. But I do remember when I drove for Yellow Cab, like the first couple of years I drove for Yellow Cab, and I just turned into a non-existent nothing here, Palm Valley Cornerstone. Oh, that's what I get for not paying a whole lot of attention to where I'm going. I used to sometimes get into this area with Yellow, and I would stay busy. I'm talking back in like 92, 93, like before I started Express Cab. But yeah, it's the only time I ever remember staying busy out here. Like when I come out here with AAA later, or certainly with VIP taxi, I can never say that busy out here. Not enough to really learn the area. And when I would actually stay semi-busy out here with Yellow, which would always be weird, because be like, wow, I can't believe I'm out here. And the dispatch always appreciated me. They're like, oh, what are you doing there? And generally, because I did work in Sunny Slope and Bell Road corridor between like 19th Avenue and Tatum. And it wasn't that I had a preference for that area. That's just like where I started. I dropped my night driver off, and that's where I'd be, and I just stay busy in that area. But like if I get out here, obviously I would work it. I'm here. But I remember sometimes the dispatchers would be really thankful to me, like, wow, you saved my butt running all them calls out there. But I would notice, like, when another cab driver would get out here, like, they would not stay out here. And next time, when I'd hear their number being called, and this is back in the days of voice dispatch, when you could hear what everybody was doing by their numbers being called, I would hear them I'd hear them back in Central Phoenix. And I would notice that, as I listened, that a lot of cabs are just always in a certain given area. Certain cab drivers just had their regions. And granted, I did have my region, but it wasn't like I didn't deadhead back to that region after I dropped a fare. I would eventually end up back in that region because that's where I had to pick up my day driver. And of course, that's where I would start my day, which of course was a night driver. That's where I would start because that's where I dropped him off. When I had a co-driver. His name was Charlie. And for all the people whose names I can't remember, I remember my co-driver's name was Charlie. Go figure that. Anyway. Oh, fun memories. I really miss doing that. I really do. I think I'd be a really, really happy person if I could somehow be functioning in Lyft or Uber driving. But both of them have denied me because of background checks. And I don't know if there's really anything I could do about that. I have had a couple people offer to let me use their accounts to drive under Uber, and I'm not going to name names because I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. But I have had some friends that are like, yeah, I know you're a good driver. I know you're a qualified cab driver, and you do well at that. And it's just shitty that they won't let you do that. I'm down to let you use my account, but I worked in transportation too long to want to do that. As much as it would benefit me, I see it potentially getting them in a lot of trouble. And when an accident happens, and I say when, not if, because statistically it's there will be another accident. Doesn't matter how safe of a driver I am and how much I try to. Somebody's going to run into me eventually. It's just a statistical probability. And if I'm doing a lot of driving for, Uber or Lyft, that's probably when it's going to happen. And the insurance situation that would create would be bad for the person helping me out by letting me use their account. It'd be bad for me, and at that point, Lyft or Uber would have a very legit reason to not let me drive them, and I'd just rather not subject any of my friends to that potential liability. As much as I really would love to be out driving right now. I mean, driving and making money. Ooh, that guy in the carpool lane's in a hurry. So, it is 3:36 in the morning. I'm not paying attention to the date lately, but it's Wednesday morning. Wednesdays are always a good day for me because I'm kind of, lately, just because by then it's like Thursday is tomorrow, and Thursday is my one day I get to shine. So I do think I want to make the effort today to bring my computer to Bullets. That way I can actually commute to work via scooter on Thursday. I'd like to do that. I know I trigger people when I go in these I was talking about earlier, when I go in these city planning kind of anti-car type videos. And I find it interesting that so much city planning is anti-car. I mean, I get the concept and I get why. Don't get me wrong, I get it, but it's I don't know. I could go on at length about it. It's I get why, but I think the people that are, we just need to get public transportation, get people out of their cars. Oh man, it makes me think of that movie Singles. And if you've never seen the movie Singles, check it out. Singles is great. One of the best documentaries of the grunge scene in Seattle in the early 90s. And I want nothing to do with Seattle nowadays. Everything I watch about Seattle now makes me just grateful to live nowhere near there. But man, I think if I could have lived in Seattle when I was 21 or 22 years old, 23 years old, I'd have been in a happy place. I really think I would have. But actually, it's kind of tempting to go to Seattle. I got a nephew living in Seattle, and a friend who may or may not remember me, who at one point in time was a borderline rock star. So I don't know. Maybe a trip to Seattle would do me good right now. I wouldn't want to live there though. I'll go on at length as to why I wouldn't want to live there, but. In fact, there's a guy that does a vlog, a podcast, vlog, whatever you want to call it, has a realty company, and it started as just a vlog about real estate. And when everything started going nuts last year in Seattle with all the rioting and stuff, and the whole Chaz Chop thing, it's hard to believe that was a year ago. And just all the social changes that were really extreme there. And let's not forget, as much as I do love to downplay the whole COVID thing, COVID did hit Seattle a lot harder than it hit a lot of places in the United States. So that was a factor too. Seattle has. I do watch his vlog, and of course I've watched both the Seattle is Dying, and then there was a sequel to that a local TV station there did. It's KOMO TV. I'm very intrigued by what's going on in Seattle, but I'm pretty convinced I would not want to live there. And I've actually had a handful of friends move to Seattle and then come back to Arizona, and they've all told me the number one reason that they did not like Seattle and had to come back to Arizona is, oh my God, it rains all the fucking time. And being that I'm very much an Arizona person, I I've lived other places. I've been happy other places, but you know, Arizona is my home. It's my heart, and I like the sunshine. I'll take 115 here over a rainy day anywhere else. Just saying, I do not like rain. I've never liked rain. So, yeah, when people tell me about how rainy it is there, I'm like, yeah, okay. But back to the movie Singles. You don't see a lot of rain in Singles. It's amazing how everything's a lot, you know, nicer than reality in the movies. But great document of the hip grunge Seattle music scene, and there's a lot of great cameos in that movie. Eddie Vedder, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Yeah, that's, you know, anyway, so yeah, that's a legendary soundtrack. For those who collect music, that's a great soundtrack, great movie. And anyway, back to what I was discussing 5 subject changes ago. If you can follow my conversations, you're amazing. Thank you. One of the main characters in there, who I identify with in so many ways still, worked, I'm trying to remember if he worked in the city planning department, or maybe he worked in the public transit office. Gosh, I might have to watch the movie again just to try and remember exactly what his job was. But anyway, he had a urban planning job, and that's something that I've always, you know, I mean, that's what I wanted to be when I was a child. You know, when I was a grade school kid, you know, people want to, oh, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman. Well, I guess nobody wants to be a policeman now, but you know, back in the 70s, I want to be a race car driver, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an astronaut, and I'd say I want to be a transportation planner, or a traffic engineer, or a city planner, and people would look at me like, what? And then when I'd start to go on tangents about why that fascinated with me, I'd really lose people. Because, you know, I drew maps. I'd spend hours a day just creating fantasy cities in my head and drawing maps. Other times I'd draw maps of intersections in Phoenix that I knew had traffic problems, and I would try to draw solutions for them. Not knowing any rules, not having any formal education. I was, you know, 8 years old, but I had ideas. And I do find it interesting that some of the things that I drew just randomly as a child have just, through massive coincidence, been built and exist in the Phoenix metro area today. One in particular is the connection when you take 91st Avenue north from Cactus Road, how it connects to the northbound Loop 101. I drew that on top. I collected all every time I go to the state fair, I would collect, I'd always, one of my favorite places to go to the state fair as a child was the ADOT booth. And I would collect all the maps they had. These are our new planned freeways. This is what's going to happen. And because those who remember Phoenix in the 70s, there was the freeway. I always know when I'm talking to a native Phoenician when they say the freeway, and I know what they're talking about too. Like if I run into an old dude at Bullock's and he goes blah 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 the freeway, I know he's talking about I-17. The freeway in the 70s was I-17 going north and south, coming in from Flagstaff, around the Durango curve. It magically became I-10 at the Durango curve, which is funny because now it's still I-17 around the Durango curve. Okay, I-17 around the Durango curve went pretty much where I-17 does to where the split is, and then down the 10. There was no split. There was an interesting freeway stub intersection there, but don't let me get tangentially talking about that, because I'll go off on that for quite a while. I'm very fascinated about that, and I know a lot about that. But anyway, it would go on where I-10 is now, over to the Broadway curve, and then I-10 on south, and so on, you know, to the res, and then on to Tucson, and that was the freeway. That was the only freeway. I remember when they built the Superstition Freeway, which is now US 60. At the time, it was Arizona 360, and I forget how far it went. I didn't live in Mesa. My folks never went to Mesa, so that was something I just knew from looking at maps. Wasn't old enough to drive, had no reason to go there, but I know it didn't go very far. Nowhere near as far as it goes now. I mean, now it goes to the other side of Apache Junction, and it continues as a, not exactly a freeway, but definitely a highway all the way past Gold Canyon. Anyway, God, what was I talking about? I am rambling and making no sense. Oh, it's back to the movie Singles. So the guy was a city planner. So I really identify with this guy because, I mean, that's something I always wanted to be, and I still do. But I realized, with my background check and my lack of formal education, it's just really not meant to be. And even if I did get a student loan, which I think is absolutely retarded at this point in time, or if I got some kind of a hardship grant, which I is actually tempting just for something to do with my life constructive, even if I did get the formal education, nobody wants to hire somebody with zero experience into an entry-level city planning type position who is in their mid-50s and has a criminal record. It's just, yeah, it's a wasted effort, which kind of sucks because I think that's something I'd have been really good at. But I tell you, I'm much as I love transit, I would be, my mind is car-centric, and that's a lot comes from the fact that I grew up in the 70s and 80s in the Phoenix metro area, which, as I said in my last vlog, is on a scale of 1 to 10 for car-centric is probably worthy of a 12. God, I'm really enjoying this, and I want to keep driving, but at this point my battery light is staying unsteady, so I need to get my ass home. I got a sneaking suspicion this car is not going to want to start when I get up tomorrow. So anyway, back to the guy who's a city planner in the movie, and yeah, the whole, me being kind of car-centric is this guy was so vested in his project that he was working on, and it was a train. I think he called it the super train. Then he was talking about we got problem with traffic. We got congested freeways and blah blah blah. And the solution isn't more roads. It isn't more freeways. It's kind of funny. Like what he was saying in that movie was like so outlandish in 1991 or 92 when that movie came out. But 92, maybe even 93. So outlandish at the time. But it's kind of funny because that's like the mentality of almost all city planners at this point. Certainly the ones that are publishing videos and doing vlogs and whatnot on YouTube. So yeah, that's where he was. Well, and it's like, well, if you just get people out of their cars, give them a nice convenient ride to work, and then they don't have to drive their cars, and they can. And I think the guy was a bicycle enthusiast as well. He was a cyclist, if memory serves. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. But he puts all this effort in designing this train. It doesn't show anything about routes or anything specific, but you do see enough of, because that's not really the focus of the movie, but you see enough of him. You can tell he put a lot of work into it. Figuring out the details. I mean, who knows how far he went with it, Did he look into what it would cost for property acquisition and where it would go? Because that's racist. Because those things always just take over non-white neighborhoods. It's a common theme in all these city planning videos now. Which and there's some fact to it, but it's when you're spending tax dollars, you want to spend as little as possible in the property acquisition. So I mean, those are the properties that are for sale because most of the people that live in them don't own their homes. And those that do are probably eager to, oh, it's sad they lost their home. The people who lived in those neighborhoods who got a big fat check were probably happy as hell to get out. Just saying. Now the people who are renting and had to get out because their sold their house because they didn't ever going to get an eminent domain done. That's another story entirely, but I digress in a big way. But I don't know if the movie didn't touch on any of that. It just kind of showed some mock-ups of what the train was going to look like, aesthetic stuff normies would be interested in, that wouldn't derail an otherwise good movie, but certainly caught my attention. And he goes so in depth into this. You can tell like that's his thing. Like, I mean, most of you see him, he's hanging out with his friends, the singles. That's what the movie's about. But they do cut the scenes where he's like very buried in this project, and when he finally presents it to his supervisor, and I forget if that guy was like the mayor or the city manager. I forget what that guy's position was. God, I gotta rewatch this movie. But when he gets to that guy, he's trying to present it, and he doesn't even get his whole presentation out. Like, you can tell he's been working on this presentation and all the details for months, and I don't even think he gets 10% of his presentation out. And his supervisor, whoever it is he's presenting it to, city manager, whatever he is, says it's a train. I'm like, yeah, super train. He's like, yeah, it's a train. Let me explain this to you. People love their cars. And that's it. That just kind of, it ends there. And I'm not sure if he loses his job over that. It's been so long since I've watched this movie. I can't recall if he loses his job over that, or if he just stops going into work, or if he quits his job over that. I know he ends up like not going into work for an extended period of time, and maybe he's just taking sick time off because his mental health just declines in a huge way. But he's so personally devastated by it, and also breaking up with his girlfriend at the same time, that he just ends up kind of becoming me, where he just is just at home all the time, not really interacting with anybody, not cleaning up his place, not cleaning up himself. Yeah, it's just goes to this huge personal downward spiral over it. And where was I going to with this? Which wasn't trying to relate to that's where I'm at now, even though it's kind of where I'm at now. But anyway, it's kind of funny because all this stuff I see now, I see people in the comment sections, but the people who are in the comment sections are people with that mentality that are all about that. Because normal people don't watch these kinds of YouTube videos. Just saying. Normal people would be bored as shit by these kind of YouTube videos. The people that watch these are I would imagine they're mostly college age, they're high school age, college age, maybe even younger, who are addicted to playing city skylines. They're probably kind of introverted, or they'd be doing something more sociable with their time, and they're also yeah. But anyway, these so of course everybody in the comments will be like, oh yeah, that would be great if nobody had to drive and everything was more walkable and blah 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 blah. And I do know there's a trend right now with millennials and Gen Z, especially Gen Z adults, wanting to live in urban areas and walkable areas, and more power to them. Anyway, I'm in my alley, so I need to cut this short. But anyway, I know I was going to some kind of conclusion with the story, but damned if I remember it. So yeah, I don't see Phoenix ever being that. I don't see Phoenix ever being anything but a car-centric city. I have some ideas that could change that, I think. And there was a plan many years ago that could have changed that of course failed at the ballot box. And maybe those will be subjects of future videos. Hell, maybe someday I'll do actual produced videos with diagrams and shit. But in the meantime, I'm gonna stick with this driving around and talking to myself format because it's fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one.